Nice one. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new week of new music here in the new year at the RGM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney, the host of this thing. And today I'm joined by James Walsh, soloist now, but also you may have seen him from that band Starsailor. Hi, mate.
Hi, you all right?
Yeah, thanks for joining us, mate. I appreciate your time as always, and it's always good to speak to accomplished people that have had just amazing careers in music and had the holy grail of being able to make a career in music, mate. We appreciate you joining us today.
No problem at all.
Yeah, mate. So yeah, your solo album has obviously just come out. We're going to get to that and have a right good chat about it. But I just want to rewind a little bit and just speak about the good old days, if that's all right with you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So, how was life for you? How did like music become a thing for James Walsh?
Pretty early on, to be honest. I think my first experience of performing was doing Once in Royal David City.
Oh, classic.
Classic. At church, the choir boy soloist. So I've mentioned this in interviews before, but it still kind of rings true. It's like when I started singing and when I started getting into music, it wasn't necessarily cool, and it didn't sort of win me any friends or attract me to girls or anything. And then it was the sort of the rise of Britpop that really kind of suddenly it was good to have a guitar and to sing and to do that kind of thing. And I had a bit of a head start because of the singing that I'd done in church and in school and stuff. Right. So it's something that's singing, I guess, is something that's always been. I don't want to sound too grandiose about it, but it's something that's always been in me, and I've always has come natural, and I've always enjoyed. So it's there.
Yeah. Well, I know what you're saying. When I first got into music, my dad used to play the cornet in a brass band, and I started to play a tenor horn because my lips were too big for a cornet, like a trumpet type instrument.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you're saying. Those type of playing that instrument in a walking band, and playing all in the squares at Christmas and that type of stuff was where I first got into music, and I'll still love seeing a brass band to this day and just hearing an amazing band. But back when you were actually doing it, when I were a kid, probably 16, 17, 18-ish, it didn't win you any like lad points or
exactly
anything from the girls or anything like that. It wasn't that type of thing, was it? How did you get into that yourself?
Yeah, like I say, music was always around the house. My dad had Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young records. And yeah, I think from sort of singing in choirs and stuff, particularly when I started listening to my own music and discovering bands, that's when that desire to like learn an instrument as well, that accelerated then.
Were you particularly like religious family? Is that why you got into singing in choirs, or is there a particular trip into the choir way?
Not particularly. Like we didn't sort of have prayers at dinner time or anything like that. But we'd get dragged down to church on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And then it's one of those things where when you're a kid, you're obviously not a fan.
Yeah.
And I'm not particularly religious to this day, but like I say, it gave me that grounding in music, and it's also a space where no one's going to look at you weird if you sing out and you express yourself. I think, without getting too deep, I think religion's just one of those things like football or music or anything, that there are people that take it the right way and use it for good, and there are people that take it the wrong way and use it for bad. So
I can remember first hearing your voice and thinking, wow, that's unique. How did you first discover that you could sing before the choirs? Was it just, I don't know, singing in the shower and your family heard you, or
Yeah.
what was it?
Yeah, like singing in primary school, and
Yeah,
just realizing that not everyone could do it. So I think when you're growing up and you're sort of singing to yourself, I can't. I was listening to an interview with someone else. Maggie Rogers, the singer Maggie Rogers, and she was saying that she started singing when she was like 5 or 6 or whatever, and just thought, oh, this is just I've discovered this new thing that I can do with my voice, but surely everyone can do it. It was only when she heard other people trying to sing along to stuff she realized that actually I'm a little bit better, and this is something I could actually, I guess, in that sort of innocent childlike way, you want to sort of show it off a little bit.
So were you doing all the hard, difficult bits, and did you get to choose all the high pitched stuff in the choir, and did you get challenged about your voice?
Yeah, more when I got as I got a bit older. I think you get kind of challenged a bit more, and yeah, it's then the songs that you have to sing get a bit more difficult, and also the artists that I wanted to emulate got fast forwarding a few years, but like Jeff Buckley and Tom York from Radiohead. It's a whole different ball game to when I started off listening to Blur and Oasis, who are both incredible bands, but they're I guess more so with Liam, his stage persona and his swagger and he's got an amazing voice, but it's almost the whole package. Whereas, people like Tom York and Jeff Buckley were more, what's the word, reticent or I can't think of the word. Not laid back characters.
Yeah,
introverted characters who really put everything into their voice, and that was the the voice and the songs was the whole thing. Whereas Oasis were like the interviews are hilarious, the voice is amazing, it was a cultural moment, wasn't it?
Well, I can remember, I think I'm a similar age to you, James. I'm 44 now. So, and I think, I can remember being passed a tape back in them days, no internet and all that kind of stuff. And it just had Supersonic on it and just changed my life. I ended up, going to many Oasis gigs over the years, watching them all over the world, and just they became my band from the late 90s, noughties, and to this day, it's such an amazing time when you're a young lad and and something lands on your lap like that and it changes your life. It's a special moment in music. You can always remember it.
Yeah, and I feel like in the early days, I would try and emulate people like Liam and Noel and try and give it some swagger and stuff.
Yeah,
and it didn't necessarily suit me.
Okay.
So when I discovered artists, the thing with artists like Tom York and Jeff Buckley, Nick Drake, you can just aspire to be as good as them, or not as good as them, because they're like on a massive pedestal. But you can aim for that, but in your own voice. Like I can try and hit the notes that Jeff Buckley hits, but it's not going to sound like him. It's going to sound like me. Whereas if you're trying to snarl and swagger around the stage, there's nobody better than Liam Gallagher. So when people see that kind of approach to it, they're going to like, he's just ripping off Liam there. He's just trying to give it the Oasis swagger. So it definitely helped to kind of go down a different avenue. So once I discovered that.
So you found your voice and things then. So how did were you in bands before Starsailor, or were you doing your own little thing? What kind of happened after school, and you started hearing all these different artists that are perking your ears to this rock world?
But at school for GCSE music, we had to do an ensemble piece.
Nice.
And we chose Babylon Zoo Spaceman.
Okay.
So not the coolest song, although the bit that's in the advert's really good. I like that bit. And then it goes off on one a little bit.
Because that was quite high pitched, weren't it? And you've got a very you've got a massive range.
Yeah.
Could you is that when you first you sung it and you thought, oh, I can sound like somebody?
I guess so.
Okay.
I think we slowed it down actually and made it a bit more of a sort of dirgy thing.
Right. Okay.
But then I guess going to music college was the big eye opener because there were a lot more like-minded people there. And we'd exchange records or CDs as they were then. And I met Ben I met all of Starsailor really, but first of all started playing with Ben, the drummer, and Stell, the bass player. And we'd go through a succession of guitarists and different name changes and until Barry joined the band and we became Starsailor, and it kind of the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I can remember hearing Good Souls for the first time and thinking, fucking, that it's one of them songs where it just got me hooked straight away into the band. Just I don't know, how do I just try and describe my feelings around that? It would just, I don't know, the whole rhythm of it and the pattern of the drums and the bass to it just grabbed me in, and then your voice came into it, and then I was like, what the fuck? There's not like this around at the minute. Did you feel like, because the first album just had so many hits on it and just so many great songs on it. How did you feel when these things started falling out of the sky?
I think in one respect it was amazing because obviously even though we were pretty young when it came together, we'd been at it for sort of 4 or 5 years. And I think when you're young as well, you're quite impatient for things to happen. And I remember my mum and dad have been incredibly supportive, but even they were starting to get I guess you're just realistic. Yeah, exactly. A little bit. Yeah. Not even when you're going to get a proper job, but is there something else you can study, or is there another aspect of music that you could kind of learn or train in? So at least you're doing, like I say, they're incredibly supportive. I think they just were realistic which is fair enough, really. Like, we'd love you to become this sort of famous musician, but you need something to fall back on. And then suddenly it kind of came together, and I did actually do like a week or something of a New Deal for musicians thing that Labour had set up.
I was on the New Deal program. Darnell Music Factory in Sheffield. I did a program there for like 6 months or so.
I did. I went to this place in Manchester, and then it was not long after that we got the gig at the Social in London, the Heavenly Social, and that gig literally set everything off. The NME reviewed it, and labels and stuff were after the demo, and it gets it. I think that's one of the kind of shames of the music industry now, is that everything's online instantly. So you don't really get these sought after demo tapes or clamor to hear, like when the Arctic Monkeys when their demo was first doing the rounds, and it was like gold dust to get to listen to it. And nowadays it's all, like I say, it's all just there. And a lot of times bands are doing the legwork themselves and making a name for themselves, and then a label's jumping on. Whereas I feel like before, you would get musicians who are really good, but maybe not media savvy or internet savvy, and a label would come on board and
sort of
sort it out. Yeah, I guess there's obviously a double-edged sword to that, because some bands got ripped off, but I think in a few cases it was definitely to a bet, not the ripping off, but a label coming on board was definitely to the benefit of the band, to get them to a wider audience and to do all that, to give them that advice on how to connect with people and where they need to play and what should be a single and all that carry on.
Well, it's definitely still like that now, because I put local bands on in Manchester and Sheffield, and it's still a massive struggle. The industry's so saturated, and everybody's skint at the minute. It's hard to sell tickets.
Yeah.
The journey for a band is as hard as what it's ever been, I personally think, because it's getting out of your own city is a nightmare.
Yeah.
From a promoter's point of view, it's very expensive to hire venues these days post COVID, and to put an out of town band on is a bit of a risk, because they might not sell any tickets, lose money, and all that kind of rubbish.
That's it. I feel like almost in terms of a band or an artist, if you need to do this for your living, if this is your absolute passion, and like you say, because ticket sales can be difficult, and getting labels interested can be difficult. It's never been tougher and because there's so much out there, and it's so easy to release stuff, it's really difficult to make a living from it. So I feel incredibly grateful that we have this platform that that I can use to further my solo career and to keep doing gigs with the band as well. I feel like if you were in the fortunate enough position to have another job, or to not rely on the music financially, then it's probably the best time in terms of just reaching people and just gaining an audience. It's just unfortunate, and it's, without getting too political about it, I think that's why it's so much more difficult for working class artists and bands, because they don't have that luxury of oh well, I'll just do this for a hobby and see what happens. And it's always, isn't it nice that 100,000 people have streamed this or downloaded it, because in most cases there's about 20 quid in that. So if you need that money to kind of to justify the money, even without making a profit, to justify the money that you might have spent on gear and all that kind of thing. So I hope
I think a lot of bands rush things out too quick these days as well. It's very saturated, and like you say, people can record a single from the bedroom very easily on just how equipment has moved on since 20 years ago or wherever. A lot of people are just bringing things out too quick. I think they're rushing into it. The big debate about Spotify will rumble on. You know, it is what it is. It is a platform where you can get your music out to the world, but you just can't expect to get any money back from it, really, or even cover the cost of the recording, which is a massive shame. But what's a guy do? You know, when a company's got that monopoly on the music industry, and the record labels kind of sold the industry down a bad path by allowing, since the Napster days and that kind of stuff, as a reaction to all that, and they basically sold off rights to be musicians to be able to make money on Apple and Spotify. It's not the healthiest of positions to be, but the music industry has never been in the healthiest of positions anyway. No. It's always been a bit
but I think all power to the small venues that are still able to put on up and coming bands and chuck them a few quid as well, and keep the local scenes, whether it's Liverpool, Sheffield, Leeds, Manchester, London, obviously. Even like there's a venue in Winchester called the Railway. I play quite frequently, and I think people go to the gigs as much because they see the venue as a mark of quality, so they might not even have heard of whoever's playing, but you think, oh, there's someone on at the railway. We know they're going to be good, so we'll go and watch them. I played my mate's pub, Strines, in near Stockport, near Marple in Stockport.
Oh yeah, I love Marple. I went because I'm quite new to Manchester, so some of my Manchester friends took me around Marple in summer. Beautiful country little town.
That's great, yeah. But that's another one where people just were like, "Oh, there's something on," and it sold out really quickly. And obviously that was a nice ego boost. But I think part of it was just someone who a mate of a mate has actually heard of is playing in this pub. So let's get tickets and go out. So I think there's still, in spite of all the venues that unfortunately have had to close their doors, especially since COVID and so little support, there are still a few sort of digging their heels in and managing to make ends meet.
We've got it in Manchester with Night and Day going through court proceedings to stop people that moved into a flat near the venue have kicked off. It's just bollocks. And the Lead Mill's having licensing issues and all that kind of stuff in Sheffield. These iconic venues are still fighting to stay alive. It gets on my nerves, mate. It's hard enough without bollocks. This extra you have to fight, so it's just annoying.
Yeah, I think the situation, well, both situations are ridiculous, but particularly in Manchester, where you shouldn't be able to happen upon a nuisance like that, where you know exactly where you're moving into, and you know there's going to be loud music, and it's like, I think there was the developers or whatever messed up at the time as well, because they were supposed to do it. Yeah.
It's not come out in court yet, so I'll just say allegedly to it. But
that's not the venue's fault, though, is it? It's like,
no, it's annoying. It's absolute bollocks. So so Starsailor were born. You all met each other, started playing. These songs were falling from the sky, and I can remember when there was a massive. I don't know where I got the story from. It's just in my head that Starsailor, you were in a position where there were just many record labels at the same time wanting to sign you, so you were in a really strong position to get a good deal. Was that the case? Was it you guys or Travis? I get mixed up in my old age.
And probably both, because there's quite a lot of excitement around Travis as well. A few years prior to us. But there was definitely a few labels interested, and it was quite an exciting time. I think, in a weird way, the little kind of the things that are happening now, almost I appreciate more because I'm a bit older, and I think at the time I was at that sort of age where you kind of take everything in your stride and you feel like you're almost starting a journey. And I in retrospect, probably didn't appreciate enough how mad and unusual it was, because you just think, well, and I think because Coldplay was starting to really like play arenas and just be this massive thing, and they were signed to the same label. Or in fact, it was like one of these situations where EMI had two subsidiary labels or whatever, or labels under their umbrella, which was Chrysalis and Parlophone. And Coldplay were on Parlophone, and we became like Chrysalis's. It's that inter record label rivalry. We became Chrysalis's answer to Coldplay in a way. So we felt like, well, obviously we're going to go and headline Glastonbury and play stadiums eventually, and this is just the start. And everyone around us kind of encouraged that idea, rather than which is more sensible, is like, it might not get any better than this, so enjoy it and appreciate like I say, the grounding that those early years have given me and the band to an extent as well, to carry on doing, like I played in Shetland not too long ago, and it's things like that that just wouldn't have happened without those early years of getting us up there. And
how did you make your final decision on which record label to go with? If there's all these big names there, what helped you? What kind of, like, did you seek legal advice and that kind of stuff? How's it, having all these massive labels fighting for you? How do you make the right decision there?
Well, Jeff Barrett at Heavenly Records, who originally sort of put us on, him and Danny and Carl and Robin at Heavenly, they'd originally put us on at the Social. Martin Kelly as well, he was around a lot at the time. And EMI let us keep him on as A&R. So EMI took care of the business side of things and marketing and videos and whatever. And we still had Jeff guiding us, not creatively, but in what's the word? Like mix decisions, production decisions, and things like that. It was good to have someone like that.
Nice.
kept on board. He'd worked with Primal Scream and part of Dove's success, and Saint Etienne and Ed Harcourt, and we really respected him. And I think that made a big difference, that we felt like we had one foot in the slightly cooler camp of Heavenly Records. But then this label behind us as well. So that helped the decision. Whereas it's going back a few years, so I can't remember what the other,
fair enough. No,
I can't remember what the other exactly what the other labels had on the table, but I feel like it was more, they wanted more control over the big decisions, and which is understandable, I guess, if they're putting a lot of money on the table. Although since then you kind of realize how sort of you got to pay it back, exactly. How kind of, although it's not a straightforward loan, it's not directly paid back over the amounts that you're selling. They take a tiny percentage of that, and then so the debt just keeps growing and growing.
Nice.
Chuck out a $100,000 video or £250,000 video. It's just madness, really.
It is madness. And when I was doing a bit of research about you, I had a look on Wikipedia about you, James. Have you ever Googled yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I do have a little look at Wikipedia, but I don't hang my hat on it or anything. It's just, I just find it interesting just seeing these things. And it does say that you've sold 3 million albums globally. 5 albums. Is it 5 albums and a few greatest hits? 5 studio albums?
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you look back at that kind of success and that ride? How do you reflect on
it? With fondness, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think and just the opportunity to travel the world as well was an incredible privilege. And we're incredibly lucky to being able to do that.
Have you always been this laid back about it all?
No, like I say, I think when I was younger, I was much more disappointed by any kind of setbacks. It would really get to me. So when your debut album's done as well as ours did, then setbacks are inevitable. I've definitely I'm definitely more philosophical now, and feel incredibly fortunate to, and I think like you say, because you almost exist in a bubble of being a successful band, and only really seeing or or experiencing other successful bands. So you're constantly going, oh, how come this is back in the day. Now it's completely different, but back in the day there was definitely like, oh, how come Muse got a #1 album and ours was only #2, or how come they're selling these venues in America and we're only doing these ones, and just stupid stuff like that you shouldn't really allow to get to you, and you should just stay on your own path and be fortunate for the amazing things that are happening, instead of having that sort of slight jealous tinge. Whereas now, like I say, it's kind of, I've had to get more kind of laid back about it, and just the longer it goes on as well, you're like, it's been 20 odd years since Love Is Here was released, and people still want to hear those songs and still book me for solo gigs. And
you recently celebrated 20 years anniversary. It's come out again, didn't you? And you did the what was the versions of the songs you did at the end? Because I've been listening to them and all, and the word just come out, mate. What you did different versions of some of the songs at the end?
Way to Fall and Alcoholic.
What was the name of the sections on it though? What was it?
The distillery section.
That's the word I want. Yeah, they were great to just listen back to the songs again, just in a different, more bluesy fashion. Really. Yeah, that were nice. That were a nice surprise.
Thank you.
So with the when you Google yourself, what's the biggest thing that you see on there that's bollocks when you Google it?
I haven't checked it recently.
Okay.
I think my date of birth is wrong.
Is it? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it said the 9th of June, and it's the 10th of June, so almost right. My older kids have
okay.
Have edited my Wikipedia a few times.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
But stuff like, he's Jane McDonald's biggest fan.
Nice. And
runs the fan club and stuff.
There were a lot of stuff about your net worth on there, James. That must be a bit intrusive.
Also nonsense.
Right, okay, fair enough.
I got divorced a few years ago, so
okay.
I think my net worth is minus.
Fair enough. So the band's just taking off, doing amazing things, starting to play the big festivals. Starsailors all over the place. There's people like me that are just getting right into the band and coming to see you live. I think I went to see you a couple of times at the Doncaster Dome, a few times definitely, and I think in Sheffield, what we call the Octagon. I think I've seen you a few times. Well, those type of venues. It was just amazing, great live events. Did you? How did you prepare for like live gigs and stuff, particularly when the stages started to get a bit bigger? Because I know when you're in a band and you're playing the smaller venues, and then you've got all this space. How do you fill all that as a performer?
I get we just sort of rehearse it through and work a bit on sound check, but it just comes from experience, really. And then obviously, as the gigs get bigger, you get involved with lighting designers and more sort of stage design, which takes a bit more of the pressure off the band to, like you say, kind of run around the stage and make use of the space. We just kind of try and stick to our roots and stay true to the music, and make the gigs as, I'm trying to think I heard someone talking. Oh, it was actually about comedy,
right.
But I guess it applies where there was an interview with Toby Foster about Peter Kay, and he was saying that his great skill is to, even if he's playing an Enormodome arena, it still feels like this kind of intimate little gig and little chat sort of thing. So I think that's what I try and what we always tried to do, and I think decent lighting and stage design really helps that.
It's just another layer of the whole creativity thing. It must be nice I'm just trying to guess what it's like to be in a band and make it. I fail miserably, so I just love the journey and how people did it, and the creativity side of it. It must be nice just to do other things than just be about the music. Or was it not that way with you?
Yeah, we definitely took interest in. None of us are particularly artistic outside of music. There's no artists, or I know a lot of bands there are kind of artists or film people within them, and whereas we were always our main talent was the music and songwriting, but we took an interest in what went on the covers of the albums and how the stage set looked. I remember there was one particular occasion where they wanted us to use a kabuki curtain drop thing,
nice.
which was fantastic in principle if it worked. But we tried it out at ULU in London, which is a fairly small venue within the university there. And we had Mark Collins from the Charlatans playing with us, and it dropped on his head.
Nice.
So we quickly, that was like, what's the word? It kind of brought us back down to earth then. Maybe we're not ready for a, maybe Manchester Academy's not ready for a kabuki drop just yet. Especially, I think having Mark play with us and be able to see his guitar and not be wrapped up in a curtain is probably more important than this little stage trick.
Well, when I was researching, when the band's taken off and you're playing all the big festivals and all the big gigs and that kind of stuff, the one of the things that came out of it, you mentioned Oasis earlier, and you had a bit of an altercation with Noel Gallagher at Tea in the Park. That must have been difficult, being a big fan and knowing what they're like. And what did they say? There was just students or something like that.
Yeah. I think that's part of that. It's just, and I think I'm still quite sensitive to any sort of abuse or criticism, as everyone is.
Yeah.
But now I would probably take a deep breath and not rise to it. Whereas then I was like quite easily wound up, to be honest. And that's their kind of, that's their they're really good at it, basically.
They are
really good at winding people up. But we did a gig with Liam. In fact, I met him in Dubai when I played with the Stone Roses. And he was really sound then. And I met, not seen Noel since, funnily enough. And we did a gig with him, with Liam and his band in Turkey. And they were all lovely. They were all like very, you'd sort of see them. We were all staying in the same hotel for a few days, and see them at the pool and at breakfast. And it's amazing. It's amazing, yeah. And I feel like
all days come up in conversation, like when or is it just like it's just pantomime really, and it's just something that happened back in the day?
Yeah, we didn't sort of. I didn't get to speak to him that much, to be honest, but he said hello and like, how's it going? And just perfectly nice. And I feel like Liam more kind of shoots from the hip and is more spontaneous almost, or more, whereas Noel, it hurts a bit more maybe when he slags people off, because he feel like it's a bit more calculated and a bit more thought out, like who can I slag off next? Like Lewis Capaldi.
Record out though, don't he?
Yeah.
It's definitely calculated, isn't it?
Yeah. But what can you say? He's written some anthems over the years, so it's like, it's just the idea that music's a competition in the first
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Just ridiculous, really. It's like,
You still see it at grassroots that, you know, when a band sold a little venue out in Manchester at Castle or Gulliver's or anywhere
yeah,
like that, then
yeah,
they can become quite entitled straight away. Like, oh, I've sold one gig out in Northern Quarter, so
yeah,
I'm entitled to things now.
yeah,
You
yeah,
still see that, and then another band sees it and gets jealous of that because they think they're getting
yeah,
extra treatment for stuff. When there's so much like stuff that you just waste your time thinking
yeah,
about the industry when you just need to concentrate on yourself and just go for it, don't you? And it sounds like you had that, um,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, foresight really.
yeah.
Eventually,
Um,
because it's difficult, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. I think as it comes as you get older,
Yeah,
that that calmness and that ability to keep going and keep believing, it's easier to get caught up in the um, the ego of it all when you're at that age, like 18 to 20, where you're totally susceptible to thinking that the world is at your feet. Really.
yes. Oh yes, definitely. I know that feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
just a couple of memories before we move on to your solo stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I know I just wanted to touch on, you mentioned the Stone Roses there,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you've supported the Rolling Stones. I just wanted to get just a couple of memories from, you know, those days, and just, you know, how for anybody just like sees that from the outside, just think that just must be, every part of that just must be fucking amazing.
Yeah,
And I've got a weird fascination of what it's like backstage. Since doing the magazine and stuff, I've been going backstage at festivals and seeing that it's just a portal and a few sandwiches,
yeah,
and the magic's not really there. But like arenas, I think it's a bit different because it's set out different. But you know, just being around these musicians in the back, and particularly the Rolling Stones, and you know how big the Stone Roses got, it must just be magical back there. Tell me it's magical, Jim.
um, yeah, yeah. I think obviously supporting the Stones was an incredible honor, and we got to do a picture with the band, and um obvious, and it's something that our mums and dads will
Yeah,
forever feel a sense of pride about. That connection with their era and their music is something they can tell all their friends about for years to come. But what I find even more magical is the music that I've grown up with and the people that I've idolized since becoming um, mates in some cases, but even just acquaintances and people who, you know, you can have a beer with at festivals. It's like I used to have the Charlatans on my wall and Embrace on my wall,
mm,
and Rick's produced our last two albums.
mm,
Mark Collins has played with us a few times. Tim's obviously a massive champion of
yeah,
loads of artists with his listening parties and his
yeah,
Tim Peaks at Kendall Calling. Hour of the Bewilder Beast is an amazing record, badly drawn boy, and he's another one who's just unassuming and like, all right, James, how you doing?
mm.
You just, they're the real like pinch yourself moments where um
When you have relationships
obviously,
with these people, it just must be so.
yeah, it's you almost, you have to kind of uh obviously like treat them like normal people, and
Yeah,
I'm able to do that because I've known, particularly like Mark and Tim, I've known them for years now. So for 99% of the time, they're just mates or people you see at festivals or gigs and you can have a beer with. But every now and again, you think, shit, I was in the front row of the Charlatans at
mm,
Tea in the Park in 1998, just gazing up at Tim Burgess, thinking, what an incredible frontman, and this is the best gig I've ever been to. And now he's like, what are you drinking? Or do you want me to, or more nowadays it's more, how
tea.
many shots of espresso do you want in your
Yeah.
coffee? It's not, it's not so much as the booze anymore.
No, you know, I'm really similar, particularly with the Charlatans. I went to see the
Mm.
Charlatans. Was it Wonderland album before Tea in the Park?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Because I went to see the Charlatans at the Leadmill in
Mm.
Sheffield,
Mm.
Joy the Wonderland album, and they were doing a warm up for a festival. So it were either for Tea in the Park or for Leeds Reading or something like that. And
Mm.
you know, I've just spent all these years, and the last time I saw the Charltons were at Gorilla just a few months.
Yeah.
Manchester. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's just such great songs and memories from just being a kid out there in the world of music and just enjoying live gigs. It's particularly after COVID, you appreciate it more now, I think, or I do
Yeah.
anyway.
Absolutely.
And I nearly came to see you at Basque in Stockport, but I was just getting over an operation and I weren't quite ready yet as well, mate.
Okay.
So I'm definitely going to catch it next time.
I'm playing in. They've not arranged the date yet, but I'm playing
Yeah.
in Glossop.
Oh, okay.
It's not too far, so I'll keep you posted on that one.
Down the road for me, yeah, nice one. So, yeah, so you know all these big gigs, and so where do you feel you are in the industry now as a soloist and doing your own things? Let's move on to the next chapter, your current chapter in music, which is you on your own out there. Talk us through
Yeah.
how this is all going.
In terms of the big picture and like where, and definitely compared to where Starsailor got to,
Yeah.
maybe how would I say? I don't want to say unsuccessful because it's has such negative connotations, but I think it's successful because I'm able to make a career out of it now. The albums sell enough to make a profit. Loads of people increasingly people are booking me for solo gigs. So yeah, I can make a living out of it. And yeah, and obviously it'd be nice if I could sort of sneak into the top 40 or
Yeah.
those kind of that kind of old school success. But for the moment, I'm grateful that it's a nice little departure from the band, because the band's still kind of reasonably active as well and doing gigs and stuff. So yeah.
Like, how do you find songwriting being a bit older and you know having all these experiences and do they still fall out of the sky so easy? No, like we were talking about your first album when all these iconic songs, Lullaby and everything, just you know happened and they all appeared on this first album. You know, looking back over after a few years, how do you find the songwriting process now for you?
There was definitely a stage where I was trying to emulate those songs or trying to write songs both for solo and for sort of later on Starsailor albums, that they would be the benchmark. And I think it's much more freeing to almost forget about that and keep that in its place, because there was the age that we were and the age that our fans were at the time as well. It's impossible to connect with people in the same way when you're sort of 20 years down the line and everyone's got mortgages to pay or rent to pay or whatever it is. Then I think it's much healthier to kind of approach things fresh and go like, it doesn't matter if this is the next Silence is Easy or the next Four to the Floor. It just, is it a good song that you're proud of? And then yeah, that feels like a much healthier
is it harder
way to look at it.
Is it harder to finish a song then now? So do you think? Do you like think? Is this starting to sound like a bit like an old Starsailor song? Do you have to kind of like workshop it a bit in your own head and try and do things a bit different? Is there another layer of like thought of your thought process to finish a song?
Yeah, I think although I tend to just write more songs, I'm not very good at honing songs. They either come almost fully formed, or an idea comes, or the bulk of an idea comes and I'm really excited about it and it develops. Or I just abandon it. I don't tend to write something and think, oh, that's all right, but it needs a bit of work, I'll just go, if it's just all right, it's like that goes back in the
You don't
back
even
in
have
the
it on an
locker.
old tape somewhere. It's just gone straight away.
All my ideas are on voice notes on my phone.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, and I think as well, it kind of having the band is a good barometer for that as well. It's like that's the benchmark really, is like, do I feel confident enough to play this to the rest of the band as like this should be on the next Starsailor album? And I feel like that's quite they're not always the easiest people to please, so it's
Well, that's what I'm going to say.
good,
Do they challenge you back? You know, if they don't feel it's quite good enough, do they let you know straight away? Is it that kind of relationship?
Yeah. But if they are excited about a song, then it's just we're off and running then.
Nice.
And it starts to come together really quickly, and we're all quite, the bass player and the drummer can be quite harsh with each other. I think it's historically that's always been the case with all kinds of bands. That tight rhythm section have usually known each other the longest and can be quite cruel to each other. But as far as the wider sort of band relationship, we're all fairly nice to each other, and it's more subtle signs. If they're not excited about a song, it'll be like, yeah, it's all right, that, maybe we should look at it later, kind of thing, rather than Jim, that shit, what are you doing?
well, you very kindly sent me a link to the new album just before it was released, and I've managed to have a good couple of listens to it in gym this morning. I've been through it a couple of times.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's The Way Ahead, the first song on the album. Just I had a similar kind of feeling to the gut from Good Souls. Just how your vocal comes in again, and your vocal still surprises me to this day, mate. It's an iconic voice you've got, and it's there again, and it's just to kick off this new record, isn't
it? Yeah, that was a song that was like, I was umming and ahhing about whether it was a Starsailor song or a solo song. But I decided basically we'd already got enough songs together for the next Starsailor record, and it's just on the edge of being introspective and laid back enough to be.
I was definitely getting like an old,
on my album,
a more of a Dylan vibe to it, but with a better voice.
I don't know. I really like Bob Dylan's voice, but I know it's a bit of a Marmite character. So,
it's just music in it, just personal preferences. But I mean, like just like the structure of the song felt more Dylan-y than what I'd heard from like you.
Yeah, well, I feel like there's a deliberate attempt, because I'd written a lot of songs of very heartfelt lyrics about reaching out and love and sensitivity and stuff. There's definitely a deliberate attempt with that song to go a bit out there, a bit more with the imagery, like I stood there laughing at the state of the ark 2x2 on the animal farm, which Dylan is obviously incredible at. So I appreciate the comparison.
Yeah, well, just a few highlights for me as well. A Different World, really enjoyed that. Together Again. The quite short songs as well. I was surprised how, there's nothing much getting past, 3 minutes is quite a long song on the album. Is that a deliberate thing that you decided to do as well?
Yeah, I think it was just the excitement of saying, oh, well, there's enough on this for it to be a song. I'm just going to get it down. And I think because I guess the longer a song is as well, the more production and the more sort of moments need to happen to keep the listener kind of engaged. Whereas I found it more comfortable and more easy to, when I'm just sat down on my own recording and writing it, I find it easier to keep it as succinct as possible. and yeah, also if you've kind of said all you want to say in a song as well, I think it's good to keep it quiet. Yeah, there's a few. There's a song on the next Starsailor album that's in the process or in the works, and our managers like that song's it's like 2.5 minutes as well. And he's like, it's far too short. This song's it's one of the best songs you've ever written, but it's far too short. And I'm like, no, that's the point. It's like, if you want to put it on again, if you want to hear more, just put it on again.
I know, I get it. Yeah. Do you find it, because I know when I speak to musicians, they find it quite hard to know when a song's finished. I'm getting the vibe that you just like move on quite quick when you think it's done.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about the band and the different characters in the band. The bass player's James Stelfox. He's quite a good creative foil for me, and he's, out of everyone, he'd be the one who suggests kind of what direction he feels a song should go in and different instrumentation and stuff. And we play off each other a little bit, because he is the one who will analyze recordings and productions a bit more and look for ways that they can be improved, whereas I'm much more, like you say, like, well, the song's written and it sounds pretty good to me, so let's put it out.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to have that balance where you have to give some room to the band to express themselves and their opinions. So you'll be like, okay, you can have a few weeks or days even to listen to it and see how we can improve on it. But if we're still, as long as we're not still here in 6 months and they go, oh, hang on,
well, yeah,
we need to re-cue the hi-hat there or something.
Oh God, you can end up spoiling it as well, going too far. You can miss the point of it by overanalyzing stuff, particularly music. I personally think.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, like I say, it's a nice balance where quite a few times I'll think something's finished and then he'll suggest something like some harmonica or slide guitar, and you're like, actually that was a really good idea, and the song's really benefited from it. So it's good to have different opinions and characteristics there.
Mate, you've had such an amazing career. Really enjoying the new album. I'll put a link for people to download and stream and buy the music in the description of this podcast too. So encourage everybody to this interview, and thanks for everybody for joining us to just join us for this chat today, James. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, mate, as well. I really appreciate it.
You too. Nice one.
Is there anything you want to share with the James Walsh fans or Starsailor fans, just to finish it off today, and then I'll let you get on with your day?
No, just that I appreciate the support. Yeah. I think particularly the fans that have kind of supported the solo career, because they're quite a bit smaller in number. So yeah, it's a real buzz to kind of do something completely on your own without any real backing, and for it to connect with people is I really appreciate it.
Oh, mate, brilliant. Well, I really appreciate your time, James. You crack on with your day, and thanks for your time, mate. Thank you.
Nice one. Cheers.